Hey everyone. So recently I attended Richmond Favorites 2023, and there I was able to get a 5.01 PB Rubik's Cube average while I was practicing for 3x3 round 1. And this was probably the craziest solving of my life. Although I did get really lucky, I think I was just solving pretty well overall. And yeah, I ended up getting a counting 4.4, 4.5, and then 6.0. So it's a shame that I couldn't roll it. But nonetheless, I thought that I would just break it down for you guys, just show you my solutions to all the solves, because I think I did some pretty interesting stuff. And so, yeah, without further ado, let's just get started. Here's the first solve. It was a 6.07. And so, honestly, I think yellow cross was actually a bit better than white cross, but I ended up doing white anyway. So I started from this angle, and I tracked the green-orange pair. These are the two pieces there. And so I started off by solving blue and green relative to this red cross edge. And so I did that by just doing D prime, L prime, D prime, wide L. And so that solved these three pieces relative to one another and brought the cross to the bottom. And from here I just have D prime, R2, D2. And I was tracking this pair in inspection, and so I immediately went into this pair here by just doing U2, pairing them up, insert to the back. And here it definitely would have been better to do this pair here because it doesn't require rotation, or maybe even this one. But the first one I ended up seeing was this one, and so I solved it by just doing a rotation, U2, set them up like this, and then insert. And then from here I had this pair here, blue-red, which I paired up like so, and inserted it like this. And then I rotated again for this last F12 pair. And so yeah, you can tell that the F12 here was really bad, but it ended up being saved by this last layer case, which is a one-look last layer. I actually just intended it to be an OLCP, but it ended up skipping PLL, so I don't know if you can even consider it one-look last layer, but the alg you can do here is, you notice you have this OLL, and then you have these two the same, and then these two the same. And the alg here just goes like this, and then you just hedge at the end here, and then U2 AUF. And so, yep, there we go, 607 with a PLL skip, so pretty lucky, but pretty bad at the same time. The next solve is a 682, but it was the worst solve of the average, and it's not like I can remember what I did on a random 6.8 solve, and so I'll just give you the scramble, but I'm not going to reconstruct it because I have no idea what I did. The next solve is a 446. And so right off the bat, yellow is very interesting because you can essentially just do two moves here, and you have a double X cross except for this sort of opposite swap of edges. And I decided that I would leave this swap for the end of the solve. And so once I noticed that, I went ahead and looked for my next F2L pair. And so I saw that I could do either green-orange or blue-orange, and I ended up settling on green-orange because then I would have my front slot open, and so that would just make look ahead a little better and just make the overall solve flow a little more nicely. And so from here I just did F2 L prime, and then I went straight into this green-orange pair like this, and then into blue-orange, which I just paired up and inserted. And then to solve OLL, I actually rotated because I want to have my opposite swap sort of vertical like this if I want to solve it later. And so here I just did OLL like this. And then here I'm left with P-op, I guess. It's kind of like a score on PBL, but what I did here was just, I did a U move and then M2 to M2, and then I'm just left with this J perm. Actually, if I had just done a JB perm first, then I would have just been left with M2 to M2, and JB is better than JA, so I could have done that, but instead I just did M2 to M2 into JA perm, which I solved like this, and then AUF kind of like this. The next solve is a 444. And so here it's a pretty standard scramble. I ended up going for white, and I noticed that this pair would be pretty easy to track. And so I started off by solving green and then blue relative to each other, and then I took care of red and orange. And so I started by doing R prime D2 R2 to solve green and blue, and then just D prime R L prime. And then I can immediately go into blue red here by just pairing them up and inserting. From here, it definitely would have been nice to just do green-orange next, but the first pair I saw was green-red, and so I ended up solving it by doing a rotation and just solving it into the front here. And then from here, I rotated again, and the rest of the pairs were just 2-gen, and so I started off by doing green-orange, just by breaking them up, and solving them. And then from here, I was able to look ahead right into my next F12 pair. And so I just kind of went straight into that and insert with R prime U2R. And so this is where the solve kind of became really good, because I have this really easy OLL, which also obviously leads to a PLL skip, because you have this bar here and this bar here with a UAUF. And so I just did the OLL, UAUF, and 444. And so by this point, I was already freaking out because I had a 4.46 counting. And yep, I had no idea what was to come on the next solve. This is the final solve of the 501 average. It was a 450. And so right off the bat, white cross is really nice because you have, it's just a 5-move cross, and there's also this F12 pair that can easily be taken advantage of. And so I start off by solving orange and green relative to one another by just doing F prime L. Then I did a D prime R prime to solve red. And then before I solved this last blue cross edge, I just did a U prime to kick this pair to the side and an F move. And now I just can insert this pair into the back. The next pair I saw was actually blue-red. I don't know why, but it was. So I rotated U2, and then I just did a back double sexy here. From here, I realized that this pair was made, and so I instantly inserted that with L prime U2L, or L U2L prime. And for this last F12 pair, I wanted to solve it while also orienting my edges, and so I ended up doing F prime U prime F to essentially set up a 3-mover while orienting the edges, and then just U and insert. From here, I just have back soon, and I know that I'm going to have an H perm because of this pattern here. If you have these two are the same and these two are opposites, and you have a back soon, then it's just going to be an H perm. And so I did back soon, and I went straight into H perm, and I noticed I have a U prime AUF. And there we go, 450. And so by the end of that 450, I was pretty much freaking out because it was a 501 average. I had 2 counting mid-4s. You can just ask Ash, who was sitting right next to me. Like I was just like hyperventilating. I was going absolutely crazy. And you can imagine that as a result of that, I was not able to roll it. I ended up getting, I think, 2 6s after, and so I wasn't able to get a sub 5 average. But one day, hopefully, I'll be able to get that. But it's okay. I'm really happy with 501. I'm not sure what my previous PB was, but this is definitely my new PB. So I'm really happy about it, and I hope you guys were able to learn a thing or two from my little breakdowns. And yeah, thanks for watching, everyone.